What's shaking? Y'all know I'm baking. Calzax on the mic once again. And today we've got a monster of a video for you guys. Crusader Kings 3 is finally here. Now this game is a bit of a doozy. There's a lot to this game, so we're going to go ahead and start out today with the tutorial. This game has just recently come out as of the time of this making of this video. But I intend for this to be a complete and full guide to the entry parts of the game. This will have sort of a target for the beginners because of how advanced this game gets as quickly as it does. But I feel this guide will work for everyone, you know, whether you're intermediate or not. If you guys end up enjoying this video, please consider giving it a like, commenting, and subscribing to their channel. We really want to hear from you guys. We want to start this whole community. We have so much planned for this game, Crusader Kings 3. If you'll have us, we'd love to be your guide as you make your journey through this game. It's getting great reviews, which is really good to see. We've been waiting for this game for a long time, and I know how confusing and daunting this game might be to a lot of you guys, and myself included. So I think we should just take this journey on together. Let's learn how this works, and let's enjoy this process. So with that said, make sure, like I said, comment what you want to see. Especially, I mean, it could be, we're a variety of different games on this channel, so anything that you like to see, but especially when it comes to Crusader Kings 3, please let me know what you guys are struggling with, what more information that you need, and we want to get that to you. So please, please, please let us know. Well, we've got a lot to dive into today, so without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into the guide. Attention gamers. You ever have that feeling when you're gaming that you're missing something? Well, I think I might know what that is. I think you're lacking your gaming gear. Like this shirt here. For shirts like this one and other fun gaming gear and awesome apparel and things like that, jump over to arraygaming.com and use promo code CalzaxTV for a 10% discount to all their merchandise, all their gear. Thank me later. That feeling will go away. So as I said, we'll be going through the tutorial today. This is really just to get the ground running, but we'll be covering a lot of information in here. So as you can see here, we're going to be playing as Petty King Murchad of Ireland to get started, and we're basically going to be walking through the tutorial and just diving into more of what they're talking about. The tutorial has quite a bit of information in it, and it can be pretty difficult to dissect. Alright, as this little intro card says, this game is basically like if Game of Thrones was a board game. Essentially, you are going to be a medieval ruler and you have a variety of different ways you can choose to be successful. You could play it more like a civilization style and, you know, possibly go for more of the domination side effects, or you could be a manipulative bastard like many Game of Thrones characters, in which I won't spoil. The choice is yours. Let's go ahead and see what options are out there for. Okay, first up we have the camera controls. It's going to be WASD for the camera movement. You can also go to the sides to pan. Besides this, you can zoom in on the map itself by scrolling in and out. If you get close, as it says, you will encounter the details map as I show. If you scroll further out, you'll have the political map, and you can see all the different nations as well as the borders and several different other factors which we'll describe later. But this makes it easier to kind of see the nations and different counties and duchies and kingdoms and things like that. If you continue to zoom out, you'll find the paper map. This is just the largest map, and it's honestly it looks pretty nice. It's very aesthetic. So yeah, that's basically that. If you haven't played the past Crusader Kings, you'll know that from this screen, essentially the game is paused, sort of like Total War or something like that. When the battle is going on, you can actually pause time in that as well. It's sort of like that, but in the broader sort of board game perspective. Essentially, if you look at the bottom right of your screen, you'll kind of see the current year, the month, and the day as well. We'll have different ways that we can unpause the time. Whenever you play the time, you'll be able to choose different speeds and the like. We'll get into that a little further into the video. You don't really need to be unpausing right now. Okay, next up we have this little tooltips tutorial. We actually have to complete something here, so make sure you just hover over one of the words. The blue highlighted words will be tooltips, and it will further expand upon what it's talking about, which is really nice because there's many different confusing terms if you're not comfortable with the lingo of this time period and these types of games. So hover over a word, and as it says, you'll also be able to hover over other words in that little tooltip that pops up, and it's sort of like a chain effect that happens after this, so you'll be able to read about different things that are confusing to you. Really useful. Okay, next up, we're essentially just talking about titles. We're really getting more into this. It's just trying to lay the beginning structure of the game out. But if you examine your character card, you will see that you have basically a coat of arms, and that's sort of your title. This governs your sort of realm, and we'll dive more into this in just a moment. Next up, we're essentially looking at borders. If you click your character, as it says, it will highlight your realm capital. As you go to the political view, you'll be able to see all the different borders. We'll get more into what these mean in the future, such as the DeJure and things like that. So in your own kingdom, you essentially hold your capital, but other areas, you can only have so much control under your own guy. If you want to expand your control, similarly to how they, the structure of kingdoms in the past, historically, you're going to have vassals, essentially, that are other parties that are allies with you that make other areas a part of your realm. Okay, there are a variety of different characters, as you'll come to find out. There's going to be your character, you're going to have heirs, there's going to be people that you're marrying, there's going to be other rulers involved, so characters are a big part of this, and as it says, you just need to click on your character to advance. And you can also find out a lot more information about your character here. We'll dive into more of what the specific character screen kind of looks like at a later time in a later video, but this is our initial look at the character screen. Okay, very interestingly, each character is going to have a sort of personality and different skills that they're good at. If you look at their character screen, as I said, we're just taking an initial look at it. If you look at the top left area of the character screen, you can kind of hover over and see the different traits that they have and read more about them using the tooltip. First up, we'd like to talk about skills. These are basically, in any RPG game, your character is going to have skills like this. So they're diplomacy, martial, intrigue, stewardship, and learning. This sort of describes what your character is good at, how they can be most effective. It also plays way into their traits, so let's go ahead and hop into those a little bit more as well. Okay, as for traits, these will kind of affect your skills in different things. These are more of just your character's literal personality traits. They can work on the skills based on their lifestyles. These traits they're sort of attached with but they're also important to know about because they can affect the skills and many other things. So make sure to read these. Every character will have some traits, as long as they're old enough, I guess. But it's important to know about, again, in the future when you're marrying and things like that, to be combining good traits that you find that you're wanting to use to your advantage. As it says, it can also affect how characters react to you. So just keep this in mind. If you have a certain trait, some people might jive with you, other people might not. Alright, as in real life, most people have opinions about other people, so people can have a high opinion of you, as it says. This will essentially make them more likely to sort of help you in things like schemes and seductions and things like that. If they have a low opinion, they're more likely to not be willing to help you, so try to keep yourself in high opinion of those people that you are concerned about. Alright, now we're going to start diving into the resources. These are on the top right. Your gold, essentially you can just buy different things with this. You can use it to buy different army pieces. You can use it to buy different buildings, different bribes, things like that. Essentially you get this from taxes, so your vassals can pay you different types of money, but it is not the only resource that's important. So there's going to be things like your prestige and piety, which we'll get into in just a moment, but money is of course a good thing to have. You gotta fund the war effort to be able to do well with that. Alright, prestige is basically the measure of how legendary your person is. That is specifically measured by your level of fame. This increases with your prestige, but will stay forever. So if you spend prestige, which is something that you'll need to do to enact different diplomacy things, and let's say you're making peace, going to war, things like that, you'll gain and lose different prestige values, but your level of fame will stay the same and only go up. You can't lose that. I guess spending prestige does not make you lose your level of fame specifically. Piety is pretty interesting. This will increase your opinion with the head of faith. You can gain it by doing things like learning and going on a pilgrimage. As it says, you also have that level of devotion, which sort of builds over time and can add some positive effects for your character. And now we're getting into lifestyles. These are pretty interesting. So lifestyles are what your character spends the most amount of their time doing. So essentially you can target what you want your character to be working on, how you want them to be getting better as time is passing. So let's go ahead and look at those and set which one we want. Now these lifestyles are directly linked to the skills, as you can see, and this character specifically, the Petty King, has a background in martial education, so your background can affect this, and therefore he gains 30% more experience in this lifestyle. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with this one for this choice, but just keep in mind that any of them are totally viable. It just depends on your situation. And as we open it up, we'll go ahead and find that there are different perks and focuses that you'll be able to choose within the trees. Pretty deep as we open this up, you'll find out. Okay, once we're in here, as you can see on the right side, we have the different perks that are available, and on the left side, we can choose our focus. I'll let you go ahead and read through these. I'd love to put a more informational video out about the lifestyles and stuff, so if you guys want to see that, let me know. But for now, we'll just kind of skim over it, give you the general idea, essentially you can choose your focus, read through, see which one you prefer. I'm just going to go with strategy focus for this time around, but there's just definitely a lot of ways you can play this game, as you can see. Okay, now the tutorial is going to move more into interacting with other characters, as they are a huge part of this game. So go ahead and click on your character screen, and let's go ahead and look at your heir. Your heir is represented on the right side of your character screen. It wants us to go ahead and send him a gift. There's a variety of options that you can do. Just remember, your heir is kind of how you continue the game, so you need to keep a good heir in mind. Your dynasty is really your character, not your main character. If your character gets assassinated, murdered, dies of old age, something like that, you need an heir in line, otherwise the game's going to end for you. Alright, nice job. We've now increased their opinion of us. As I said before here, this is what it's talking about. Just remember, you are a dynasty. As it says, there are different types of succession actually available, so but generally it's going to be your child is your next player heir. Of course, I think it has to be a certain child, so yeah. Go ahead and follow suit with what it says here. We will open up the succession tab, and as you can see, you can control different things in here. So you can change your succession laws as well as the gender laws, and the designated heir. It's also talking about our renown and level of splendor. This has to do with your dynasty and how well you're essentially becoming famous, doing prestige, stuff like that, the ranking of your dynasty. Alright, now we're diving into one of the pillars and cruxes of medieval society, marriage. Let's go ahead and learn how to find a spouse, so follow as it says, and we'll get to find a spouse screen. Alright, as it says, you'll be able to either find a spouse or arrange a marriage. The spouse choice is pretty important, and there's a lot of different choices available. So you might find yourself at the screen for a little while. Just do yourself a favor, look around, pick one that you think will fit with your goals in mind for succeeding in this game. Once again, just reiterating, the dynasty is very, very important. It's what you are. Once again, don't forget it. Every plot of land in this game will have an owner at all times, essentially is what it's saying here. Okay, here it's just breaking down essentially the system for civilization back at these times and in this game. At the lowest level, we're going to have our counties, then our duchies, then our kingdoms, and then our empires. These are ranked in order from smallest to largest, of course. There are also other characters such as barons and your own character, who's the petty kingdom, which is apparently equivalent to a duchy, interestingly enough. But those are the main structures that we'll need to know about. Okay, DeJure. This is what I was talking about earlier in the video. Essentially, DeJure can provide you casus belli for a war. A casus belli is just essentially a reason to go to war with someone for some purpose. But DeJure can provide you that. What it is in a realm, like a kingdom or something, there's different tiles of land that are owned. In our case, with the petty kingdom, we have 2 different tiles right now, but there's actually 3 that are within our DeJure, because it was essentially part of our kingdom, but not anymore. So it gives us a reason to go to war if we want to take that back, and we'll soon find that we will be going to war for it, so we'll get into that. As it says, our DeJure has 3 counties, but we are only in control of 2 of them at the moment. Alright, now we are going to go ahead and build some buildings. Just click on your city, essentially there on the leftmost side. I'm not really exactly sure how to pronounce it. It starts with an L. It's asking me to build the bastions and curtain walls, but I think my city already has that for some reason. Just pick a building that you want to build, but this is where you do it, just for future reference. We've already touched on our holdings and taxation a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and skip through these, but go ahead and feel free to read through them if you'd like a little bit more. Okay, we're going to learn a little bit more about our vassals here. As a liege, we are in charge of many vassals. If you want to have a large kingdom, a large realm, you're going to need vassals. You cannot control it all yourself. There's in fact limits on this. If you go over the limits, you'll incur large penalties. So it's smart to have good vassals that have a good opinion of you, so they don't start scheming and plotting against you, as we'll be told soon. Yeah, here's that screen. Don't get murdered in your sleep, my suggestion. Okay, there are limits on your vassals as well, so if you go over these, it's going to start incurring penalties. There are ways in which you can increase this by granting lower ranking titles and things like that, as it was saying, and also just creating higher in titles. We'll get more into that later or in a future video, so for now, just use your vassals. Alright, here they're just sort of explaining some terminology. Realm is everything that you are in control of, both your own territory and the territory that your vassals own. Again, Game of Thrones reference. If we think about the north, generally Winterfell is the kingdom in the north, and then they have all these different vassals around the north. You know, it's still in control by the Starks, but they realistically have just other vassals that are in control of that little area over there that they just talk to. When it uses domain in this game, that just refers to the specific territories that you actually own, your character owns. In this case, Thoman. Again, creating a reason for the vassals, there's the domain limit. That's just how much you can own personally. Okay, now we're going to start talking about your council. Once you've opened the council view, you'll find your council here. There's a variety of advisors at your hands. It will be your spouse, a bishop, a chancellor, a steward, a marshal, and a spy master. Again, this needs to be thought of politically. A lot of things in this game need to be thought of politically. So your vassals are going to be the ones that want to be put in charge in these counselor positions. So just keep that in mind. If we open the intrigue view, we'll find more about schemes. These are going to be both useful for us and also useful for many others that have their own plots against us. As it says, let's say the line of succession is not looking as you want. You are your dynasty, so if your line of succession is being threatened, you are being threatened, okay? Remember that. So schemes can be a way to help you get that back under control. Depends on your playstyle. Some of you may prefer to not use these and play more humbly, more modestly, while others may be a bit more cutthroat with their methods. A general scheme would just be the sway in order to try to get the favor or higher opinion of someone. After you've swayed the bishop, you can go back and open the schemes tab to see that scheme being put into place. Okay, next we will learn about secrets. All schemes will have secrets essentially in order for them to take place. So if these are figured out, these can be used as blackmail, things like that, and this would be represented as hooks, for example. But yeah, the hooks are essentially just ways you can motivate people to do what you want. Okay, now we'll be diving into the basics of war, which are fought by armies and consisted of man-at-arms or mercenaries, depending on which way you want to go. And the war tab here, we can kind of see some information about our army and people that we have. But again, armies are generally used when in war. In order to start a war, you will need a casus belli. This can be real, or again, as it says in the little italicized text at the bottom, it can be fabricated as well. Okay, here it's just talking more about the pause system. Now that we're about to be going to war, and we've also set a bunch of things up like our sway and our marriage plans. These to take place, we will need to unpause the game, so we're about to get there. There are certain events that will auto-pause the game it's telling you about, so keep that in mind. Also, as it says, you can press the 1 through 5 keys to change the speed at which the game is going, and just hit the spacebar to pause and unpause. 1 being the lowest speed and 5 being the highest or the fastest speed. This is also represented by the squares at the bottom right. If they are green, that just means play. If they're red, that means pause, and then it also shows the speed exactly. Okay, so now don't forget we have DeJure on a kingdom below us, the kingdom of Desmond. So essentially we're going to want to take that now to practice our war efforts. We have DeJure, we have a casus belli, so we're good to go ahead and enforce that and start heading over there. Let's go ahead and do that. So after you've declared the war, you want to begin to raise your army so you have something to fight them with. Okay, now go ahead and left-click your army, and then you can right-click to move them. After that, you'll need to unpause the game and let them go ahead and start marching over there to take Desmond. Our marriage was also completed. Okay, this is kind of where the game starts opening up for you a little bit more in the tutorial. So essentially, I took my army over to Desmond and engaged in the battle. As you can see, this battle screen here. The battle goes on for a while. There are different things that can affect this battle, such as terrain, such as the amount of units, things like that. Keep this in mind. After my battle with that, as you can see, the enemy is still wounded. I was kind of curious to see what they would do, so I moved on to their city to siege. The enemy army actually kept going on and went and tried to lay siege to one of my cities. So I ended up deciding, after some time of sieging their place, to split my armies up, raise some other armies, and then try to go take them down first. As you can see, we went ahead and did that. And after we've fought our last battle, taking these guys out, we are going back down to the siege. Our war score is represented in the bottom right. It goes from -100 to 100, you know, and everything in between, so it can hit 0. And it is symmetrical with the enemy, so if you've got, as it says, 25%, and that means that they've got -25%. If you hit 100%, they hit -100%, and vice versa. Now, if it hits that 100, that is going to mean it's basically the whoever has hit 100 will be able to make their demands and enforce them, and the -100, the loser, will have no choice but to follow. So as we keep fighting and eventually win the siege, we will hit this war score and be able to introduce Desmond back into our kingdom. We leave the ruler in place just to have some power over there, and then from there, this game really opens up. This is pretty much the end of the tutorial, as it says. We've learned enough to really get our hands onto this game. As I was saying, this is kind of just an introduction level way to get into the game, to learn the basics, and from here we'll be able to talk more about how the actual game flow goes, talk more individually about specific things like the lifestyle trees and things like that. But with that in mind, let me know what you guys want to see. Let me know what was confusing, what made sense to you guys, what sort of Crusader Kings videos you want to see coming up. I would love to get tons of videos out here, tons of guides for this game out there, so we'll just keep that planned. If you enjoyed the video and learned something today, please make sure to subscribe, as we have tons of other content coming your way. Drop us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We've got all of the links in the description. If you're interested, join our Discord. We've got an awesome community joining in there, lots of discussion in there. We also post a lot of updates, like when I'm going to be streaming, when different videos are going to be coming out, things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's guide. Thanks so much for sticking around, and I will see you in the next one.